Welcome to the 3x5 news, views, and reviews scribbled on index cards. We get in and get out fast, so keep up. Yes, I am that rare breed of progressive motorcyclist. Do I ride a Harley? Of course not. That's the official motorcycle of MAGA. The subtitle of this video is Trump Has Poisoned Christianity. First, though, I have little to add to all the enlightening commentary by individuals more knowledgeable than me on the incident where Trump officials used the Signals app to discuss an attack on Yemen's Houthis. I would just like to point out that kind of overlooked is that an apartment full of civilians in Yemen capital Sanaa was targeted and many civilians were killed, including children, in the pursuit of one person. Talk about burying the lead. Now the Yemenis are burying the dead. Old Sanaa, with its picturesque brick and earth buildings, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It would really be adding insult to injury if it were one of those buildings that was attacked. We no longer even question the, quote, collateral damage, unquote, if humans can be characterized as such, incurred by our attacks on those we deem terrorists. As always, that is the central story here. Before I proceed, I know this is kind of a desperate look, but I have no shame. Kind of like Republicans, right? Well, here goes. Anybody who leaves a comment on my video will not only receive a comment back, but whether you're a thoughtful person or a troll, I will subscribe to your channel. While I think subscribing to YouTube channels is personal, whether you like what I have to say or really hate it, please consider subscribing to mine. Thank you. Now, two quick Trump items. First, you know how he is always crying, witch hunt, most recently about the flack his administration has been taking for the Signals leak? Sorry, buddy. There's no hunt. The witch has been found. You have been in plain sight for these many years. Second, how is it the world has wound up with, I was going to say arguably, but there's really no arguing, the two worst people in the world, Trump and Putin, ruling the two greatest powers in the world? Some might say Darwinism. I'll just stick with karma's a bitch, just in case, like me, you are wondering, why hast thou forsaken us? Continuing with the religious theme I have just invoked, I heard a commentator speculate about whether Democrats could peel off Christian voters from Republicans by virtue of any unease they might be feeling over some of the party's harsh measures, such as the dismantling of USAID. You know, however quaint it sounds in these main times, by appealing to their consciences. Recall that USAID's functions include life-saving measures, such as relief and response to natural disasters and conflicts, and health programs like vaccinations. The numbers thrown around for the potential loss of life range from the millions to the tens of millions. Staggering. In fact, many evangelical leaders have been objecting to this manifest lack of compassion. How about evangelicals? Notoriously MAGA in general. First, let me mention that in addition to the destruction of USAID, there is Russia's invasion of Ukraine, or conquering as they used to call it, which is basically an assortment of war crimes rolled up into one immense war crime. But the cruelty and mercilessness of neither USAID nor Ukraine seems to have plucked the heartstrings of the MAGA base. I mean, how can you even expect them to when they are real issues such as DEI and trans athletes that they are wrestling with? Irony, of course. However futile an exercise and however often this kind of thing has been trotted out, let's review the teachings of Jesus again. You remember him, nice guy, kind of a bleeding heart. I'm referring to love your neighbor as yourself, as exemplified, of course, by the parable of the Good Samaritan. Then there's love as Jesus loves, love your enemies, practice forgiveness and mercy. Today, many Christians, including evangelicals and fundamentalists, may claim to be on board with all this, but they only apply it to their own kind. Perhaps because they have a siege mentality in the, however cliche, changing cultural landscape. But many outside their circle who they don't care about are Christians, especially in USAID relief spots, South and Central America and Africa, as well as in Ukraine, which thanks to Trump's trompe l'oeil, that French word for trick of the eye that conveniently resembles Trump's name, it has been transformed from victim of attack to our enemy, while Russia, the aggressor, is now our friend. Note that minus the usual atheist cohort endemic to Western countries today, Ukraine is Christian, okay? And evangelicals twisted MAGA thinking because Ukraine citizens are Eastern Orthodox, they may not be true Christians to them. But what about the children? How can they give the Trump administration a free pass for not only cutting a Yale University program that tracks Ukrainian children abducted by Russia, where they are indoctrinated and given to Russian parents? I guess in the age of Gaza, with wholesale Israeli attacks on civilians, being a child doesn't buy them mercy. They're only going to grow up to become one of them. But if you are excluding even Christians, which includes many Africans who are often evangelical and fundamentalist, from the small circle of people whose welfare you care about, now you are getting into some serious sectarianism, schisms and isms, as Bob Marley sang. What does that remind you of? Extremist Islam, in which the two sects, Sunnis and Shiites, kill each other. We are nothing like those heathens, MAGA evangelicals scream, invoking distant cultural memories of the crusade. Then how can Christians justify excluding so many from the ever-tightening circle of people they care about? It's as if their compassion is on Ozempic. Just war theory does for war. Is there any theological or ethical justification for this? J.D. Vance said, note how as soon as I mention his name, the air goes out of the room. Anyway, he recently said, quote, there's this old school. What school is that, J.D.? Certainly not Yale, where he got his law degree. As I referenced earlier, a Yale project was tracking Ukrainian children kidnapped by Russia. To begin again, before I so rudely interrupted myself, Vance said, quote, there's this old school concept, and I think is a very Christian concept, by the way, that you love your family, and then you love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens in your own country, and then after that you can focus and prioritize the rest of the world, unquote. Note that once he got out of the country, he dropped the word love and replaced it with focus and prioritized. Focus, as in targeting a Yemeni apartment building and killing dozens of Yemenis. And prioritize the rest of the world. You mean, JD, shove them across the flat earth of your MAGA mind and push them off the edge? Jesus is rolling over in his grave. Oh, that's right. He has no grave. Still, I wouldn't be surprised if he could be seen stomping around heaven, rending his garments. Fundamentally, I've always thought most people, including the faithful, will go to church services and volunteer for bake sales, but they think that actually being a moral person and wrestling with questions of morality is the domain of clergy and theologians. The rest of us have to be practical, live in the real world, and fend for our families. Ethical qualms be damned. Though Jesus commanded his followers to love one another as I loved you, as I have loved you, we think, I'm not a saint, I'm never going to do that. But do we really have to stand by when our own president blackens the heart of our country with hate, cruelty, and mercilessness? Is Jesus really asking that much when he advocates forgiveness and mercy? If you're not capable of that, you have no right to call yourself Christian, American, or even human.